Okay, we're officially calling meeting number 3 to order at 6:32 p.m. Welcome, everybody, and the new public we have in attendance. I am Abby Parker. I am the fiscal consultant on this, and this is meeting number 3 of establishing the Central Carroll County Fire Protection Territory. Legal requirements that we must follow: we have to have at least three public meetings. Number 3 is today, an adoption meeting. Hearings. My apology. 3 public hearings, an adoption meeting, which is scheduled for March 24th. We have advertised twice in the newspaper, the Carroll County Comment, and we have a financial analysis that outlines the impact to taxpayers and taxing units that is available up here. And we must present identical resolutions to be signed by both legislative bodies of the 2 townships which are the participating units, both of which copies are up here for review. The participating units are Jackson Township and Rock Creek Township, with Jackson Township to be the provider unit. Some information you'll need to know going forward: there's a difference between a taxing unit and a taxing district. A unit is each individual entity, like local government, that establishes their own rate. A taxing district is every place that you live in combined, and that is the overall rate you pay. So for Jackson Township, if you live in Jackson Township, all of these rates you pay, but you pay a total of 1.3107, of which Jackson Township Civil or Fire makes up 0.0336, and Jackson Township Fire, which makes up 0.0514 in 26. 27 is we have projected everybody maintains a level tax rate. The only change is the fire tax rate goes away and the fire territory tax rate comes on board for 27. So the top is Jackson Township and the bottom is Rock Creek. And then down here you can see the breakdown of the net assessed value. 26 is certified by the county. 27 is projected based on historical changes. Jackson makes up about 72 to 73%, with Rock Creek doing 27 to 28%. Someone from the fire department would like to speak on why?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I can't even see what it says.
Jackson Township. Okay, well, just stand up if I say something wrong.
Okay.
Deal? Jackson Township contracts with Camden Jackson Township Volunteer Department. They have 23 volunteer members and 1 junior firefighter. There's a steady increase in incidents reported too, with a 14% increase from 23 to 24 and a 46% increase from 24 to 25. Rock Creek Township contracts with Rock Creek Volunteer Fire Department, which consists of 10 volunteer members, and they have experienced a 36% increase from 23 to 24 in incidents and a 93% increase from 24 to 25.
Great.
So why is a new territory the way forward? The new territory will be a flat rate for both districts. We will not going to have a different taxing rate, and it will not be phased in. The 27 pay rate, so the rate that you will pay taxes on for 27 will be 0.1950, so 19.5 cents per every $100 of assessed value, and that is for the operational rate only. The new territory funding structure will provide funding to hire 2 full-time firefighters to be present in the fire station, approximately Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 each day. So why is this a benefit? There's new legislation being passed, that has been passed, and other legislation being considered that changes the current local income tax structure, or LIT. So right now, both fire departments pretty much the townships rely on the LIT revenue to pay the contracts for the fire departments. That is probably going away, and both townships, or all townships in Carroll County, will be reliant on the Carroll County Council to establish a local income tax rate for township operations only. It is no longer guaranteed that anybody will receive local income tax. This puts consistent and guaranteed revenue in the hands of the fire departments through the fire territory. Instead of relying on lit revenue, they have guaranteed property tax revenue coming in. So it's not going to be impacted by the lit change, and it won't be impacted on the legislation to merge or dissolve townships. As I mentioned, Public Law 68, 2025 alters the current lit formula. As of the prior lit formula is based on the prior year's lit distribution and the property tax levies, excluding certain debt levies. So that's how the current certified shares distribution is calculated. Going forward, it is based for townships. The Carroll County Council will decide up to 0.05% for townships of income. And that up to 0.05% will be shared across all townships in Carroll County on a pro rata basis based on the most recent decennial census population, so the 2020 census. It's not based on your property tax levy anymore. And so those with fire departments aren't going to be getting that lit money anymore because of the fire levy. We have a tentative calculation in the packet. And once again, Carroll County Council could decide we don't want to have a lit rate, and so townships could get nothing. Another benefit is you're essentially combining two volunteer fire departments. So you'll have better response time, more volunteers, more equipment, better training, because you can combine the training, shared cost, and it could result in a better ISO rating, which could lead to a decrease in your personal insurance, such as homeowners insurance. Future capital improvements. These are the projected potential capital improvements, just normal operating equipment and apparatus. There are no current plans to build a new station or purchase land for the territory. So part of the requirement is we have to project the budget, levy, and rate for the territory. So what we did is we asked these fine gentlemen to tell us their budget for 26 for the fire operations. We did a 5% increase in cost of equipment, personnel, supplies from 27 to 2030. And from that budget, we have backed into what the levy needs to be to fund the budget. And therefore, based on that, we've created the tax rate based on this formula of the levy equals the rate multiplied by net assessed value divided by 100. There is a property tax levy freeze in Carroll County. It's the last one remaining in Indiana, which means the property taxes do not grow, or the levy does not grow by the maximum levy growth quotient as the rest of the state does, which the past couple of years has been 4%. So we have projected a 0% growth in all property tax levy. The equipment replacement fund, in township language, that's the cumulative fire fund, is only used for capital outlay purchases. So think of anything that lasts more than a year, costs roughly more than $5,000. It's slightly different in how it's calculated. Thereby, it doesn't grow with a growth quotient. It is a flat rate, maximum of 0.0333, which is the rate we have requested. And we are going to advertise for that rate. So there is no growth quotient. The state doesn't tell you what it can or cannot grow by. As the net assessed value goes up, your levy goes up. Like I said, cannot be increased by 0.0333. Once it is reduced or eliminated, you have to begin the process to reestablish or establish the fund, which includes 2 advertisements, a public hearing, an adoption meeting, a notice of adoption to be published, and you have to wait 30 days for anybody to contact the county auditor for a remonstrance, and then you have to submit it all to DLGF by June 1st. Here you can see our general from 27 to 2030, the budget, which is the projected disbursements, and the projected revenues and receipts with a net income each year from about $6,000 to $11,000, depending on the growth of the net assessed value in the county. On this screen, you can see budgeted expenditures, projected revenues, and net income or loss. for 27, 28, 29, and 30 for the general fund or operations fund and the equipment fund. Once again, the first couple years, you're looking good. We have run into a negative in the operations fund in 2030, and that's simply because we've projected expenses to grow by 5%, but income to stay the same because of the levy freeze. And this is assuming you spend 100% of your budget every year. Circuit breaker credits or revenue limits, constraints. These are a limit to the amount of property taxes that individuals or property owners pay. So this is basically to stop local government or any government to say, I'm going to set a property tax rate of $50. There is a cap. There's a 1%, 2%, or 3% cap, which means for personal property, which is personal homes and up to 1 acre of land, the most you will pay for that is 1% of your assessed value. 2% is agricultural land, residential properties such as second homes, apartment complexes, and so forth, and long-term care facilities. The most they will pay is 2% of their assessed value. And 3% property is commercial, industrial, and personal property. In addition, there's a circuit breaker credit for those age 65 and older, which limits the tax bill. New in 2026, this year, is Public Law 68, 2025, Section 74, created a supplemental homestead credit, which applies to the 1% or homestead properties only, and it reduces your tax liability, like a credit, by 1/10 or $300, whichever is lesser. Now, Carroll County having the levy freeze means you can't add property tax rates for debt, and you can't really, your rates aren't growing that much. They're typically going down. So there's only 3 taxing units in the county that have a high enough rate to trigger a circuit breaker credit: Delphi, Camden, and Flora. You can see their unit rate and the district rate total. Because those 3 entities are not participating in the fire territory, there is no effect on circuit breaker credits because of the formation of the territory. Local income tax or LIT, public safety shares. There are no public safety shares for Carroll County, as you can see by the highlighted section. So that's not going to be affected. And local income tax economic development shares is also not applicable. The recipients of the economic development shares are the county and cities and towns. And as we mentioned, participating in the territory. So the distribution, the calculation of the distribution of economic development shares will not be affected. Local income tax, the certified shares, it is, like I mentioned, based on the prior year's distribution amount and property tax levies, excluding some debt service funds. There are included some unique factors, such as a factor for territory and one for county welfare. And so what that does is essentially Rock Creek Township, because it is the participating unit, will lose their fire levy, which means their lit distribution share will go down. But Jackson Township is gaining a whole new levy, which means their lit share is going to go up dramatically. It's not fair to Rock Creek. So there is a factor that goes into the calculation that adjusts that fairness. This is all to say, this is the prior estimation. In 2027, pay 2028, the lit formula changes. So I believe it's effective currently July 1st of 2027, because I don't think the new law has been signed in by the governor yet. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is all based on the old formula. Everybody but every unit in Carroll County will see less lit distribution, certified shares, except for Rock Creek and Jackson Township. They'll get a little bump in their local income tax. The highest impacted negatively are the county, Delphi, and Flora. And if you want the exact estimated figures, they are in the fiscal projection up here. So what is the impact to each individual taxpayer? So in here, you'll see the residential 1%, agricultural 2%, and commercial 3%. This is an estimated cumulative impact from 2027 to 2030. So for Jackson Township, you're in the number 09 category. Say you have a roughly $350,000 assessed value. Your tax payable that you pay for those 4 years will actually go down by $236. Now, I know you're going to ask yourself, Abby, the tax rate's going up, so why am I paying less? It all has to do with those supplemental credits and everything going into effect, and that's all percentage based. So your 10% or $300 is what you pay. So that kind of goes into the calculation. We have all that detail up here if you'd want it. Who's going to pay the most more because of the territory? You're looking at agriculture or commercial. But say you've got $1 million commercial value and you live in Rock Creek. They're going to pay about $7,500 more from 27 to 2030, and that's about it. But that's if you have $1 million assessed value property and nothing else changes other than the formation of this territory. Homeowners are probably going to see a decrease in their taxes payable. Meeting dates, times, locations. We've had the first meeting. We've had the second meeting. This is the third meeting. What's next? Our vote, Tuesday, March 24th at 6:30 at the Camden-Jackson Township Volunteer Fire Department. If you want or need more information, this is how you do it. You contact Deb at the Jackson Township Trustee's office. The address, phone number, and email are listed here, or you attend one of the 3 public hearings. Any questions?
Sure.
Go for it.
So after the meeting on the 24th and it passes, does the council or the commissioners have to do anything to approve this, or can they deny it, or this?
Not that I'm aware. Nope. This is the township board for each of the 2 townships will have the decision to approve or deny this.
So question 2, if for some odd reason some business would decide to locate and form a TIF district, how would the TIF district affect those rates?
I would have to look. So the TIF would have to be within the boundaries of the 2 townships.
Right.
I believe the way it's currently set up, TIF districts, the only difference is they would still pay this. So what a TIF does is they pay the property taxes based on the current, or we'll say farmland, assessed value. But as it grows and expands from farmland to, let's say, a couple buildings, that change in assessed value, whoever established the TIF, they're the ones that get that increase in assessed value.
But doesn't the money normally have to stay within the TIF district?
The change in assessed value, the property taxes for that stays within the TIF district. The property taxes for the current assessed value prior to the TIF, that goes back to the unit.
Okay. And what if another township decides they want to come in and join the territory?
We start this whole process over next year because we have to have everything filed and done by March 31st. And we redistrict or expand the territory.
But can this current territory deny them admission?
I believe so.
There would need to be vote by both boards, so
The
technically, yes, they could.
More?
No.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah. If you don't ask questions, I'm just gonna stand up here looking weird.
Oh, geez, ask her some more. Come on, I'm sure they got more of that. I can't believe it. Oh, please?
So the .333 slide or .0333 that you said you had to go back and then redo everything to
If you
raise that.
lower it or get rid of it.
If you lower it, you even have to do that, or if you get rid of it?
No, so you can lower it or get rid of it, but if you want to reestablish it or change it back up, you have to start the whole process over for that.
So that's our current rate now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so in 28, say that went to .02,
Mm-hmm.
it could do that without a hearing or anything.
Yes.
But if you need to go back to .033, which is the max, you have to have the hearing and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay.
You're better off keeping it the higher rate so you don't have to start all of that again.
It's pretty unusual for those to be reduced.
It's a tax that never goes down.
Yeah, we've had that.
After we've been through this for a year or so, and another township decides, hey, that's a good thing, we need to get in with Central. They have to go through all of this again,
Yes, everybody does because it's
even
a,
if it's past this March 31st.
Yeah, I can answer that question better for you. I need to look at the statute, to see what the procedures are for adding, another political subdivision to a territory. But essentially, it's the same process of reestablishing the territory. So there's a little bit of nuance there, but for all intents and purposes, you'll have to go through the same process. And during the same time frame, January 1st through March 31st.
Whatever year it is.
Now, if the legislators decide they want to change the 1, 2, 3% tax caps, where does that go if you need to change the tax rate to keep things funded?
So they can't change it unless they do another constitutional amendment, because it was added to our constitution in 2008-ish. So that's said and done. One thing they are contemplating doing, and Chairman Thompson, Representative Thompson, Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, has talked about that starting next legislative session, they're going to implement some things to move us from a levy-based system, which we're in now, to a rate-based system, so that we don't have to have all these, it's dependent on your AV, and it grows by the MLGQ, and it's 4%. None of that will happen. It would be, you get to adopt a rate, and you get the amount of money that rate supports. And the rate could never be over $3 because the top 3% tax rate is $3, so nobody would ever pay more. There are places in the state that have north of $10 rates, but they don't realize all that money because they're
so if it comes to be that the rate is not high enough, most units can't do anything about it. Maybe a territory could if you expand and start the process over and have to reestablish the rate. But
the
that's,
one thing that I would say too about your question regarding adding another township. I would be very careful about waiting until everything shakes out with this new township merger stuff to see how not only your two townships, but the entire county end up and how many townships you have remaining. You have to have a minimum of 2, or there are some counties that won't have any mergers required. And then once you've done that and the mergers have taken place, which will be, there was legislation passed this year, and they will have to be effective January 1st of 2029. And so after that, you might have townships that have merged that aren't all part of the same fire process, fire distribution process. So, like for instance, let's just say for the sake of discussion that Jackson and Rock Creek both merge along with a third township that has their own fire department. So, well, nothing is going to change off the bat with regard to fire service. It will all remain the same, but the township may decide that we're sick of writing 3 different checks. We need to figure out a way to consolidate our fire and make it work for our new township. So there are considerations that I think you need to take moving forward about how to adjust your fire protection. in your 2 cents.
So if the third one would want to join, can this territory, if it's set up, charge them a third of what it costs to do all this to join?
They would have the same rate as you all.
Well, yeah, but the setup fees. So obviously you're getting paid to do what you're doing and you're splitting it between the townships. So if the third township would want to come in, can the territory go back and charge a third of what they paid to get this set up to the incoming territory?
We have to start the whole process again. So you'd have to have new fiscal analysis with the third unit. All of the tax information have to be that. So basically everything we've done to prepare for this will not apply if a third township wants to join. We'd have to
And that would be an
recreate it.
agreement between you all and how you all would finance that.
But it could be a stipulation to let them in.
Sure.
What about joining with a fire protection district outside the county?
Fire Protection District can join the territory. It's pretty messy when that happens in terms of how all the taxes work, but that is allowable under the statutes. Yeah, I don't see an issue with that outside the county. My personal opinion is that you should probably consider either having the district dissolve and just have one big territory, or having the territory dissolve and have one big district, rather than have these different types of units. Because the territory isn't a political subdivision. The territory itself doesn't collect taxes. The provider unit on the territory's behalf which is Jackson Township in this case, they collect the taxes. Whereas a fire protection district is its own political subdivision, and they govern themselves. And they have appointed members to the district board by the county council, or county commissioners, by the county.
And a district has to get their budget and everything approved by the county also.
That's true. Territory does not. They have to have it approved by, in this case, the executive board that will be formed, which is members of both townships and the trustees of both townships, and then a third at-large member, and then the 2 fire chiefs are non-voting members, and they will come up with a budget, and then ultimately it has to be adopted by the Jackson Township board because they're the provider unit.
Any other questions?
And my phone will still work when you guys get into all this.
Going once? Twice? Okay, I declare the meeting over at 7 o'clock.